All right, so I hope we have some kind of idea about what these words mean, and so I just want to explore them a little deeper. The concrete and the abstract. So here are four paintings, for example. These are all by Pablo Picasso. We see on the far left a painting, right? This man with a old man with a guitar, and this is what you would call like a concrete image of the guitar. We recognize the guitar, we recognize it's a man, and it's quite easy to sort of piece together. Okay, yeah, it's a man, old man playing the guitar. But then we move over one, and it becomes a little bit more abstract. We can still tell it's a guitar, right? It's guitar enough, all right? We could recognize it. But then we're going to go one step more abstract. All right. If you look closely, we can see, oh, wait, yeah, there's guitar shapes in here. There's the curve, the exact same curve. There's also a violin in here. This is guitar and violin. These little curls, the shapes, the wood color, and so on. We can still define, right, that it's musical instruments, right, and there's a guitar in there. Well, let's go even one more step abstract to the most abstract painting of the four. This one is also a guitar. I believe the title is just guitar, right? And if we look at it, why is it abstract? It's playing with only certain forms of a guitar, right? The curved lines, like the straight lines. You can kind of see here like the frets, right? And the neck of the guitar. It's the same, parts of the guitar taken, rearranged, reshaped. And the color too, right? It has this like light brownish color like a guitar. So the guitar, it's still a guitar, right? But it's a very abstract painting. And Pablo Picasso is a sort of style is called cubist, right? Where they tried to take a regular object and fragment it in all of these different ways in three dimensions, like a cube, and represent it for us to see the guitar in a new way. All right, so that's from very concrete to abstract. And now let's look at one more example, or we have two more. Here's another example of abstract and concrete. On the left, we have the Google front page, right? It's simple. We see it, this is how we use it. You just type in google.com and it's here. It's got their name, a text box, and a couple buttons. That's it. And this was just taken from a few days ago, so that's the COVID-19 vaccine is like right there too. But what this is made of, right? How this is actually built, sort of under the hood, is with HTML code, which is a very abstract language, right? And so this isn't how we search through anything as a user, but this is how it's working, right? To create this page, this is the exact source code of the Google front page. This is abstract. It's an abstract language. This is concrete. Are there any coders in this class? Oh, okay, yeah, you learned JavaScript. Yeah, nice. That's a very popular one. And Antigone? Are you a coder? Very good. Very good. In my opinion, like the future of work is going to be in coding. I mean, there's going to be so many more jobs out there in coding. Yeah. Yes. Yep. Exactly. This is where the world is sort of heading to this, more and more technologically based uh, user interface or software society, and this is how it's built, right? But it's abstract, and it's also sort of hidden behind it, whereas the concrete is the software that we're interacting with. Yeah. What's up? It is. Yeah, I agree. It, it's a very logical language. That's why I like it too. I know a little bit of Python, and I'm in JavaScript, and learned like HTML in high school. And I like it because it's like language, but it's not like poetry at all. There's one interpretation of this, and only one, even though it kind of looks like poetry, right? Short lines, it's all line based. You read it in a sequence, but there's only one interpretation of this, and it is that. Okay, it's abstract and concrete, the main point. Let's look at one more. Jimi Hendrix playing his electric guitar with his tongue, right? This is very concrete, right? It's physical, right? He's actually pretty good at playing it with his tongue too. If you hear this, I mean, it's older music, but it's what's concrete about it is how tangible it really is, right? But here on the right, this is an electric guitar too. Right here, but this is the electric guitar physics and how the whammy bar or the tremolo arm works, right? And so this is taking the electric guitar and abstracting, right, the rules of how it's actually functioning, okay, in physics. Cool. Again, abstract, concrete. Now this can be applied to language as well. So concrete nouns are generally considered to be those nouns that denote tangible objects, right? And tangible, another word could be like physical, holdable, seeable, sensible. For example, ball, right? That word ball, all right? The word tree, a cat, right? A jar. Somebody's name is always a very concrete thing. It's speaking to them specifically. That computer or that phone that's right in front of you, that's the word, right? My computer is concrete, or that hat, right? The hat on somebody's head over there, right? Concrete, it's right there, all right? So concrete language is very good, right? You just use it and you just see it immediately. Oh, right, the tree. You imagine a tree, so it's like quite simple. It's language that just shows and reveals to your senses. In concrete poetry, we'll see frequent imagery and frequent use of metaphor. All right, and remember, imagery is when language is used to spike any of the senses, right? Touch, smell, vision, hearing, right? The audio, and did I skip one? Yes, vision, something like, all five. And with concrete language, and we'll talk about this more soon, but it privileges the content of a poem or the content of what you're trying to say over the form, which would be the shape or the sound of the language. So concrete language privileges its content is more important than form, or greater than. All right, now abstract language. An abstract noun refers to an idea, quality, or state, like a state of mind or being, including actions, concepts, and events. Okay, so for example, words like love, unhappy, liberty, human, device, freedom, right? These are a lot more general. And when you think about it, like when you just hear the word liberty, right? There's no like picture in your head of liberty, right? Or of freedom. It's sort of empty. It's like you know what it means, right? And you could think of a metaphor for liberty or freedom, like a bird flying through the sky is like liberty, right? But that's not the word liberty. That's a bird flying through the sky, which is very concrete. So liberty, freedom, they're general and abstract words. And so is love. Oh, I should have added too. I mean, any color, blue, right? Green. These words are abstractions. Okay. All right. So they're more complex. It's language that tells or explains. And there's always less imagery when in abstract language, less metaphor in poetry, prose. And here the form is more important than the content. So sometimes in abstract poetry, it'll be the sounds of the words are more important than what they mean. That could be secondary or not matter at all. To the ladder of abstraction. All right, this comes from this theorist, language theorist, Hayao. Now, I know you won't be able to read this too well, but it's okay I'll sort of explain it briefly. This is an abstraction ladder, right? And you start reading from the bottom, okay? And the bottom is going to be the most concrete thing, right? And the top is going to be more abstract. So we're going to start very concrete. Now, the example here is going to be a cow, okay? Now, in the most concrete level, right, it's the cow known to science. All right, ultimately, it's the atoms, the electrons, right, the subatomic particles that the cow is made of, right? It's physical being on a molecular level, right? That is about as concrete as you can get, is the scientific description of what a cow is, okay? Now we move up the ladder once, right? And it's the cow we perceive, right? Not the word, but it's like you come in front of the cow, the cow is present in front of you and you see it, right? It's that physical animal right in front of you, right? The object of experience, not the name cow, just the actual thing, right? That which our nervous system abstracts or selects from the totality of constitutes from the process cow, which would be the sort of the scientific thing, right? It's just that. Now, to make it more concrete is the actual name, right? That cow, it's not just any cow, right? It's Bessie. And names, I said, are very concrete things. It's the name we give to that object that we perceive, right? That animal that's standing right in front of us has a name, it's Bessie, all right? And then only from there do we get the word cow, which is already pretty abstract, all right? Because a cow can be any one of these thousands of animals that are out there. We have the concrete specific kind, cow, right? But then even more concrete would be, Bessie, right? That cow, that specific cow, all right? So we move up, and livestock, right, is more abstract than cow, because livestock could be, any number of animals, pigs, chickens, goats, all of this can be livestock. And we become more abstract, and we can just say, well, really, they're just all farm assets, right? And here you're only referring to what Bessie has in common with all other saleable items on the farm, right? We're making money off this Bessie, right? Bessie's just a farm asset. We're starting to think on a very high level. But even more abstract is just assets in general, right? Farm assets is actually pretty specific when it comes to assets, because any number of things can become an asset, right? From here, we're so far away from, right, the physical atoms, right, that Bessie is made of. We just have an asset, right? Some saleable item similar to a cell phone, right? Computers, some, a carrot, anything you can sell, right? Now, all of this translates to probably the most abstract word in this ladder, which would be wealth, right? An extremely high level abstraction, omitting almost all reference to the characters of Bessie, to the characteristics of Bessie, right? So the farmer walks out onto the field, doesn't see Bessie, just sees wealth, right? Okay, and so all of these are happening simultaneously, okay? So it's not about this happens first, then the second, third, fourth. It's just the ladder of abstraction. It's 8 different ways to interpret the same thing right in front of you, from a very concrete level to a very abstract level, okay? So this one has 8, all right? But let's just simplify it a little bit. All right, here's 3 examples with just 4, okay? 4 sort of rungs on the ladder of abstraction. So I came up with these ones, all right? So here on the left, right, we have one like New York City. Let's start at the bottom. New York City, it's a specific city, right? So the word city, just city, is a higher level of abstraction because it could be any city here on the planet. A higher level of abstraction would be a settlement, okay? And that is what New York City is, right? It's a bunch of people came together and settled, right? New York City, or settled in New York City. Okay, so it's just a settlement. Now, even more abstract than that would be just, here we are in a human community. right? And you need a community before you can have a settlement, right? So community itself is this very high level of abstraction. And yeah, okay, so anyway, let's just look at a couple more examples really quickly. This one, John Wayne Gacy, right? The clown serial killer, if you know. That's a specific person, specific name with a specific biography and history, right? He was imprisoned, right? And then he got a new name, right? Inmate number 26526. Right? And this is what happens, right? To prisoners, their specific concrete name is taken away from them to a degree, right? And they're given this new dehumanized name, right? Inmate number 26526. Okay, so they're abstracting them from their humanity here. And even more abstract is just the word prisoner, right? It could be any number of prisoners that all have their own specific number, that have their own even more specific name. And then the whole idea, right, of imprisonment. Right? And this is such an abstract idea that you go to different cultures, different countries around the world, and they have a different idea about what imprisonment is, right? What quality of life is there when you imprison someone, right? So it's a theory, imprisonment, right? And then how society acts it out is concrete. And then last one, this one's very easy, right? We have this specific kind of shoe, Air Jordan, right? She's wearing Air Jordans, right? Air Jordan, Nike is a more abstract brand because they have so many different types of styles of shoes. Air Jordan's just one. Sneaker, more abstract, right? Tons of companies make sneakers, so sneakers. And then footwear, right? Footwear is all types of footwear, not only just sneakers. And so we can see how we're getting more abstract in categories here. And so we see this happening in language, and we see it in poetry too. So let's look at a few examples. Here's abstraction in poetry. And first look up here, and then we'll read the poems. Some properties of it, right? So these are going to be poems that cannot easily be imagined with pictures in your mind. Okay, these kind of poems prefer sound, the sound of the language, over sense. And by sense, I mean meaning, right? Does it make sense? A lot of abstraction in poetry is like, it doesn't really make sense, but it sounds good. Or the meaning will be secondary, right? The sound will be more important, but it'll still have meaning. It's just secondary. Yeah, and so we'll have language play with patterns of sound, rhythm, and rhyme. So let's check out the one on the right over here first, by E.E. Cummings. So it's just a line from a poem. You are whatever a moon has always meant, and whatever a sun will always sing is you. Beautiful, right? What does it mean? I don't know. And that's what he's doing, right? So whatever a moon has always meant, it's lovely, and it sounds great, and whatever a sun will always sing, right? So it's these two words, whatever, right? It could mean a million different things, whatever it means, right? Always meant is you, right? And that's lovely. There's something lovely about it, but what it means on a concrete level, it's, there's not much to say, really. So these lines just are, and they're lovely. And here too, I love you as certain dark things are to be loved, in secret between the shadow and the soul. Again, lovely. Though we don't really what it means, these dark things in secret, right? And what exists between a shadow and the soul. Pablo Neruda doesn't really tell us specifically what any of these things are. So they're abstractions, and they sound great, right? Very romantic. Now let's check out this one by Gertrude Stein, which is very interesting. A long dress, right? That's a very concrete phrase right here. A long dress. You can't get more concrete than that, right? So this is about a long dress. But now let's listen to it. That is the current that makes machinery, that makes it crackle. What is the current that presents a long line and a necessary waste? What is this current? What is the wind? What is it? Where is the serene length? It is there, and a dark place is not a dark place. Only a white and red are black. Only a yellow and green are blue. A pink is scarlet. A bow is every color. A line distinguishes it. A line just distinguishes it. It's great because it's like, what? But so what we'd have to do is start to interpret this. It's like, how is she using language is the main question. What is she doing with language? It sounds familiar, but at the same time, it seems to escape meaning all the time, right? And yet we know all of this is about a concrete thing, a long dress, but it's very abstract. So think about this in the same way as Pablo Picasso's guitar, right? On the far right, it's like, that doesn't really look like a guitar at all. How would I play that guitar? Right? And yet it is a guitar. This is very similar. And Gertrude Stein was actually friends with Picasso. Okay, and so they were doing something similar. This is a long dress, and it's not at all a long dress. Okay. Let's check out some concrete language in poetry. And this is, we can see where there is some crossover between the two. So with concrete language in poetry, the properties, they're often very visual, refers to specific objects you can readily picture in your mind. Okay, just right away. And then there's a use of imagery and metaphor to make the meaning of the poem more tangible. It doesn't have to be both, right? It's, it could just be imagery. So like we see here in this poem by William Carlos Williams, right? It's called Poem. As the cat climbed over the top of the jam closet, first the right forefoot, carefully, then the hind, stepped down into the pit of the empty flower pot. So we look at this, and all it is this almost like a YouTube clip, right, of a cat, right? Just a couple seconds, right, of this cat trying to climb over the top of and this is a special word, jam closet, right? But just think of, a closet, and it's going over the top of it. And then first the right forefoot, carefully, as cats do. They're so elegant, right? And then the hind foot slips down, right, and steps into the pit of an empty flower pot, right? Which, if it was a video, it would probably make you laugh, right? It's adorable or something like this. Right? But that's all the poem is. It's just this vision of the cat. And it doesn't ask to be interpreted as a metaphor. It doesn't mean anything outside of it. It's just this concrete vision of the cat. And Carlos Williams, most of his poems are kind of like this. You're just given a brief little scene, and then that's it. And that was his idea. He was called an imagist. He liked to create images, sort of these visions, and then that's all. Okay. Now check out this one, a gift. All right, this one's a little different. Like, see, I give myself to you, beloved. My words are little jars for you to take and put upon a shelf. Their shapes are quaint and beautiful, and they have many pleasant colors and lusters to recommend them. Also, the scent from them fills the room with sweetness of flowers and crushed grasses. When I shall have given you the last one, you will have the whole of me, but I shall be dead. Now, this poem, we have both some abstraction and concrete. But what's concrete about this? It's trying to create something that's abstract, like my words, right? My love, right? I give myself to you. Now, this is a very abstract thing, right? To your love. How do you give oneself to someone else? Right? How do you do that in a concrete way, right? To fully give my whole self. Right? What Amy Lowell does here, or Lowell, I think, yeah. Amy Lowell, she creates a metaphor to say, I give my whole self. She creates a metaphor and says, my words are little jars. This is very concrete. Okay, my words are little jars. They're not like little jars or anything. They are concrete jars for you to put up on the shelf. Right? And then she talks about their shape. She tries to make it very concrete again, right? They're very beautiful, quaint. They come in all sorts of colors and shines. They have beautiful scent, right? So we have this imagery of the sweetness of flowers and crushed grasses. Yeah. And then, of course, what happens when you give your whole self to someone, right? You eventually reach the end, right? And so she makes this point. When you give the whole of someone, that means there's nothing left, right? When you're done. And so, and she, in this concrete image of like many different jars, right? When I shall have given the last jar to you, that will be everything, right? And logically, what that means is, well, then I shall be dead. I shall be no more. Yeah.